This is David Luiz. He plays for Chelsea, Arsenal. No, Arsenal. Arsenal. I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's sure. David is a footballer who is also a defender. More than that, he's usually a libero.
Libero. Libero.
Libero. What's that? Exactly. Let's try and understand what a libero is. So, first off, let's forget about Football Manager, let's think about real life. What is a libero in real life? I'm saying libero differently every single time. Libero. What is a libero in real life? The term libero is widely associated with calcio, Italian football, and the Italian name libero means free, or kind of liberated, I suppose, is a more literal definition. It's a role generally played by a technical, intelligent centre-back that reads the game well. The libero is sometimes referred to as a sweeper, and traditionally a libero would be free to roam and would tidy up at the back, as we'd expect from the modern-day definition of a sweeper. And the term sweeper does well at explaining those early iterations of the role. But today's libero is very different from when the term was first coined, and whilst that essence of a sweeper remains, there is more to today's libero. Modern day liberos have the qualities of the sweepers of old in that they'll drop back and clean up, but they also have an attacking edge, a desire and an ability to encourage and facilitate the break. Libero is afforded freedom, so the freedom to start attacks by roaming forward, and the freedom to roam forward in order to obtain possession in the midfield. But also they need the discipline and defensive focus to track back and tidy up in defence, as the sweepers of old would have done. A quick aside about FM here, you can only play a libero in a back three, so 2 centre-backs either side of the libero, and those 2 centre-backs need to be disciplined and reliable, allowing the libero the opportunity to join and start these attacks. And also the midfielders in front need to be intelligent enough to recognise and support as needed. It does need a very specific, special type of player though, so it's not for every team. For example, intelligent technical players like Beckenbauer pioneered this reinvention of the role. He was calm, collected, skillful, brave, brilliant vision, and I guess more recently players like De Rossi, Bonucci, Javi Martinez and David Luiz could be considered as more modern day liberos, and they have very similar skill sets to Beckenbauer. So if you imagine how those players operate in real life, that will give you a good idea of what the role entails. Playing a libero is all about risk versus reward. When it works, it's beautiful, but play the wrong player in the role and you'll probably be looking at less of a libero and really more of a liability. And I think, again, David Luiz is a very good example of this. He's a very good player, but his past as a footballer has not been without criticism. He made many mistakes in his youth attempting this role or similar on his path to becoming what he is now, which is a pretty accomplished libero. Here's how Football Manager describes the role. The libero drops behind the defensive line, aiming to sweep up through balls, pick up extra attackers and make goal-saving tackles, blocks and interceptions. His exceptional athleticism and reading of the game enable him to cover for defensive errors, take possession of loose balls from a deep position and secure possession. However, he will also roam forwards in support of the midfield when the team has possession. And then, with a support duty, the libero will step into the midfield when possession is secured and look to play balls through to attacking teammates. And with an attack duty, the libero ventures much higher up the pitch to provide a goal-scoring threat from distance, alongside looking to play in teammates. I realise I'm saying libero wrong every single time. Okay, you're just going to have to live with it. So let's have a look at David Luiz again. Seeing as we know that he's a pretty good libero in real life, this should give us a good idea of what a libero should look like. Let's look at some of David Luiz's standout attributes here. He's got very nice hair, that's one. I don't think that really classes as an attribute. It would be 20 if it was an attribute, but it's not, unfortunately. I had a quick search just to try and find out how to properly pronounce David Luiz, actually. David Luiz, Davide Luiz, I don't know.
David Luiz.
Well, that's not it.
Davi Luiz. Davi Luiz.
Maybe a little bit more like it, but the guy in the comments says I'm Brazilian and that's not how you say it.
David Luiz. David Luiz.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. So let's just look at his real attributes. Some of the ones that are really good here are tackling, work rate, aggression, anticipation, bravery, jumping reach and natural fitness. And they're all kind of very synonymous with a good defender, all of those. So, you know, we know we've got a good defender straight away. But then on top of that, he has the stamina, which, you know, is also good for any player. In fact, the physicals are good for any player in FM. But what David Luiz has, which is good that a lot of defenders don't have, are things like his dribbling, his long shots, his passing are all very, very good. His vision, his positioning are good. Positioning is still good for defenders to have as well. Flair is an interesting one as well. He's got 14 flair. So what we're seeing here is essentially a defensive midfielder who can play as a central defender, and that's actually a very good way to describe a libero. So you can think of a libero, or what might be a better way to describe it is that you can use defensive midfielders to play in the libero role. If you want a slightly more advanced central defender, play a defensive midfielder in the libero role, or retrain a defensive midfielder in the libero role. Bear in mind this is on an attack duty. On a support duty, there are slightly less requirements, and he probably will be slightly more defensive-minded and less bothered about starting attacks and getting involved in attacks. So also David Luiz's traits really help here. He gets forward whenever possible, which is a brilliant trait for a libero to have, and in fact a libero probably should have that trait. He shoots from distance, not a requirement for a libero, but definitely a bonus, and tries long-range shots, but he also marks opponent tightly. Here's how the libero looks within a formation. In this case, we've got two ball-playing defenders and a libero on support in the centre there, and that's quite an attacking defence, if that makes sense. This is an FM out-of-the-box tactic. It's a tiki-taka tactic with a formation of, as FM is describing it here, 5-2-2-1 wing-back. So we've got the two wing-backs, and usually you will have wing-backs with a libero because you will be playing three at the back, and you will not very often just have a flat back five. Usually you will have those two advanced wing-backs. So this isn't necessarily the way I would set up a tactic, but this is what FM have done with this tiki-taka style. And what they've done in central midfield is we've got Xhaka and Torreira in there because I just auto-filled the roles, but we've got a central midfielder on automatic, which I don't very often do, and a ball-winning midfielder on support. Now, the ball-winning midfielder is going to be moving up and down the pitch, basically. He's going to be going back, he's going to be tracking back to win possession, and he's going to be moving forward to get possession as needs be. His main duty, basically, is going to be, let's try and get the ball and start an attack. So that works out quite well if the libero does move into advanced positions. That ball-winning midfielder should cover him to a certain extent. The wingbacks could also, if you've got intelligent wingbacks, they could also cover for the libero as he moves forward. And really that's what it's all about, is providing enough cover for that libero to roam, to let him loose, let him free. So as I mentioned before, you've got to weigh up the kind of risk and reward of playing a player like a libero, because what it essentially means is that at some points you are going to end up with just two men back. And especially if you're playing wing-backs as well, you're going to have it's going to be a very attacking, dynamic formation, essentially, with a libero. So if you want to play exciting, attacking football, a libero could be very, very interesting in that role. If you don't have a particularly strong, skillful, technical, talented team, then a libero probably is not the way to go. So weigh up that risk versus reward. I played libero in FM19 and I loved it. You might do as well. Give it a go. give it a try. Let me know in the comments how it turns out, or if you love a Libero, let me know in the comments. Personally, Libero is probably my favourite role in FM at the moment. That is, I'm quite partial to a false 9 as well, but a Libero is probably my favourite role at the moment. Anyway, I hope that's helped. Let me know how it turns out more soon. Is that shit?